rise up and shine in this man-made mess. We're drawing the line. Antonia and Roberta, your fierce femme guides, smashing the glass dome where the old boys hide. Avoiding Babylon, yeah, we're breaking free from patriarchal vibes, claiming victory. Rosaries in hand with that girl power glow. Catholic queens united, letting the spirit flow. Talking papal tea with a feminist spin. Ditch the mansplaining, let the real talk begin. You joke Karens are bad, but her parish council's thriving. Meanwhile, the patriarchy is out there dying. Avoiding Babylon, yeah, we're breaking free from patriarchal vibes, claiming victory. Rosaries in hand with the girl power glow. Catholic queens united, letting the spirit flow. Avoiding Babylon, empower, resist. Subscribe now, queens, you don't wanna miss. Tune in, turn up, transform the game. Avoiding Babylon, feminist flame.
Wow, these two ladies are absolutely amazing.
What did I just watch? What did I just watch? I started laughing in the green room, thinking at first it was I thought it was like Katie Prejean McGrady and Christine Harrington, and then I'm like, wait, that's me and Rob. What is he doing?
I've had to watch it a few times because at one point he said that little crossbow, he had a gun, and I'd be like, no, that will get us kicked. I had to watch it like 4 times, and it got more and more uncomfortable each time.
My wife hates the AI intros. She hates them. She hates the thumbnails. She hates it all.
You might like this one though. That's so good. And the tread tag. I mean, honestly, that's like.
I mean, I don't even know what to say to that. That was the weirdest 3 minutes I've ever sat through. All right, so Kale Zeldin. It's I'm like so sorry from that. I'm like, I don't even know where to go with it because sometimes I'll screen them ahead of time, and Rob's like, "Oh, you're in for a treat tonight. You're gonna hate this." I'm like, "Oh boy, what are we watching?" So, all right, I've been speaking with Kale a lot behind the scenes, and we've been talking about a bunch of different topics, and I figured I was like, you know what, let's just get on and let's just talk. I wanted to start off the episode with a Tucker clip because this Tucker clip, Rob, it sounds like a conversation we had on our show, and like it's really interesting where Tucker goes with it. So it's like a 2 minute and 20 second clip. Okay. I'm gonna pause it in between and like break down each individual thing, but I think it's a good jumping off point for the discussion that I want to have that we should have tonight.
Okay, here we go.
Turn the status quo to usher in a new age. That's the point of this war. This is a pivot in history, and a lot of the people supporting it know that. Now, they're really in 2 groups. One are people motivated by religious impulse. That would include some Israelis, some religious Jews, not all, but some. And that would include some Christian Zionists. And both groups believe that they're helping to accelerate the end of history, Armageddon, the end of time, the return of the Messiah, however you want to describe it. But both groups believe that history is linear. It began in one place and arrives at another with the return of God to earth. And then history ends, and we are redeemed or damned, depending. So that's the basic idea. And both of these groups seem under the impression that they can force God's hand, that they can bring this about through an act of will or violence, which is to say both groups believe on some level that they are God, which they are
you
not.
can pause it there. So that's what's so distorted about like when you get into the Christian Zionist thing. And that's part one. Don't lose your spot on that, Rob.
Yeah, I got it.
The next part gets into the tech oligarchs, and then the final piece is what sounds a lot like things that we've said, but that piece is like pretty integral to what's going on right now. Like we discussed the other day how even Netanyahu, who's a secular atheist, like Netanyahu's not a religious guy by any means, even he uses that language of the Amalekites, and he's doing it to whip up this religious fervor in Israel, because he knows what he's doing when he does that stuff. And it's the same thing on the Christian end, but this idea that we can force God's hand is the twisted part of that. You want to play the next part, Rob? We'll jump into, because is your mic on, Kale?
Yeah, I'm fine. I was just didn't know.
Okay. Now play the next part, because I know Kale's going to have a lot to say about this part.
They're not in charge of history. You can't force God's hand. He's in charge. You are not. But both groups have lost sight of that. So that's their motive. And then there are secular boosters of the war, promoters of the war, planners of the war. And their vision, while not strictly speaking religious, is not really so different. They would like to usher in rule by technology, whether that's mass surveillance, whether it's transhumanism, the merging of man and machine, but the rule of the earth by technology. And there are a lot of people who want this, and a lot of people who think it's inevitable. And this is the moment where that age of history begins, with this war. So again, this is not a war that is confined to the region. This is not a war between the United States and Israel and Iran. This is not a war designed to prevent a rogue state from getting nukes. It was never that. This is a war designed to usher in a new age of man, a new period in history, a new world. And so wars like that
that's what I wanted to get to, because we've talked on this show about this, and like, yes, Rob and I have disagreed about like what that means, but we've generally, when Rob and I started seeing even all the talk about like the accusations of anti-Semitism and stuff, we started seeing that the post-war consensus was wearing off, and the myth that was the world created by what happens after World War II, that foundational myth starts to shake, and it's I'm sorry, I can't get my words out, but Rob and I had thought about it, and we were like, okay, well, they're going to need a new myth, and along with a new myth usually comes a giant war, because they need some grand narrative to pull out. So if you look at a world ending as in the flood was the end of a world, and Rob said the Tower of Babel was the end of a world, and then you look at the destruction of the temple as the end of a world, what we're coming up on now is the end of a world, not the world, but a world. So this is something Kale's been talking about a lot too, right?
Yeah, so I think I have a slightly different. Tucker lays out sort of two options for us there, right? He talks about the sort of the religionist, the Zionist sort of portion of things, and then there's a kind of like a transhuman, tech oligarch thrust to this thing. I think there might be a third there, honestly, because neither of those passed my sniff test. I think that in a weird sort of way, I think Orange Man is kind of a realist in a strange sort of way, and I don't think he's a Zionist, the way that a Mike Huckabee is a Zionist, and I think the whole tech thing just honestly, my read on him is that he thinks those tech guys are just kind of weirdos, just like full stop. Like Elon's a weirdo, clearly Amadei and Altman, they're all like weirdos. Like he's not gonna go play golf with these guys. They're just weirdos, right? So I think he's a realist. I could be wrong here, of course, but I think that I am looking at this with the idea that that the post-war consensus is in fact done, and it's actually been done for a few years.
Yeah.
I think that the sort of the Biden experiment was its last gasp. It's almost the perfect distillation of post-war consensus, like boiled into like this flabby, Walking Dead man of a president. And if you recall, I mean, Trump has been banging the drum about NATO since gosh,
forever.
his first not even his first term, but his first when he was running for the first time. And I think that I think the post-war consensus has been threadbare for a really long time. I think it's being propped up for a really long time. And I think this is just him. Again, I'm not saying I agree with what he's doing. I'm just trying to read the tea leaves like anybody else. I think he's just much more of a realist, and he's like saying, Europe, you don't matter anymore. You haven't stepped up to the plate in 75 years essentially, and we're tired of paying your bills, and we're tired of all the mess. And I just don't see him being anybody's bitch. Like I just don't. And again, and I'm not a he can do no wrong kind of guy. I really, Anthony, you and I have talked a lot offline about this kind of thing. So I'm not trying to storm in here being some sort of Trump stan. But I don't think he's a Zionist, nor do I think he's a tech oligarch. Because look, if Tucker lays it out that they're trying to push forward some sort of transhuman thing or mass surveillance state, like, hello, we live in a mass surveillance state. Like, that's already here.
And we have for decades.
Right. It's really been for a really long time. And there's a book coming out at the end of this month by Jacob Siegel called like the Age of Surveillance or something like that, or the surveillance state or something. Anyway, I highly recommend it. Really lays out in painstaking detail just how much we made this turn toward data and this turn toward tech, really going back into the late 50s. And we live in that world, this net of surveillance tech. And so if Tucker's worried about that, I think his date is he needs to move that date.
I don't think he's saying that Trump is on either of these teams, though. Like, I think that these, like Rob and I have talked about, even how you had during Trump's first term when they did the Russia hoax to try and, Russiagate came up. Like, you do have these warring divisions within the intel agencies and within the oligarchs and stuff like that. And I do think you're right that Biden's term was like the last gasps of that. But what I actually see happening is almost beyond Trump's control. That I don't think he's behind it, but I do think because that narrative wore off, whether that's I don't know if you call that the fourth turning or something, like every 80 years or so. Kind of got into it a little bit with EMJ when he was on, how he called it the what was it, the Third American Republic or something. So it starts at the American Revolution, then it goes to the Civil War, then you get World War II, and now we're at another 80-year period, and you need another thing. I just think the way technology is advancing, and I think that the desires of these religious fanatics is pushing things in a direction that I think is beyond even Trump's control.
Why? Again, just curious.
I just think that's the way human history plays out. Like, it is bizarre, some of the things that Trump does, because for a guy who isn't one to be told what to do, in some ways, I don't think Trump's motives are any of those things. I don't think that they have blackmail material on him. Part of me thinks he wants another term in some way, and he thinks this is his ticket to getting it. And Trump acts like an emperor, like he's not going anywhere. He acts like he's going to live forever, and it's almost like he's like emperor's age.
It's possible. I mean, you mentioned the fourth turning, the Strauss and Howe book, and they would say that that's very much like in play. Like what we're playing out right now is that we've been in the death rattles of a dead consensus, right? And so, and it's interesting because as we Gen Xers are sort of aging up, and you millennials are really kind of like settling into neither of us care about the rules the way that the boomers care about the rules. Now that's a little bit ironic because of the sexual revolution and all that. But, if you look at the way that like old conservative Inc. reacted to Trump, right? In part, they were reacting to the kind of, he's not being decent. Like he's not following the rules. He's not doing these kinds of things. And I think I think that most people who are not boomers kind of are like, yeah,
It was a bit refreshing
because the rules don't work for me.
Yeah.
You know, and so anyway, I think that it's very possible, you know, that we could be living in a post-constitutional era.
Yeah, I agree that I think the way that the world is going to end up going is a third direction besides what Tucker lays out there. And it's, you know, when we talk about the post-war consensus, we're really talking about like the liberal Bretton Woods style world order that was created after World War II.
Yeah.
And Ant, you're right. Like an unnatural constructed world order like that needs a narrative behind it to survive because it is unnatural.
Right.
And that world order is falling apart. The narrative is falling apart. I don't know if we need, I would say the way we're moving now is the world is moving back to political realism. And I don't know if you need a narrative so much for that, but you definitely do need a driving force, you know, nationalism, you know, something like that, populism, things of that nature, can be the driving force.
I mean, you all have talked about, you know, Fuentes before. I mean, I think one of his superpowers is he can spin a narrative like few people you and I have seen. He's really good at spinning this narrative of discontent, which, you know, resonates in part. Number one, he's just talented. Even if I don't care for him, he's talented. But number two, you know, he's pulling together a bunch of threads that signal that the myth of the post-war consensus is over. I was talking to you guys earlier. I want to get this in. It's a book by R.R. Reno. He's actually the editor of First Things, and it's called Return of the Strong Gods. And he says this. He says, if you don't mind, if you'll allow,
go ahead.
He says, and this is all these people who are saying like, oh, we're marching into the next Hitler or the next Stalin. And he says, this is absurd. It is not 1939. Our societies are not gathering themselves into masses marching in lockstep. Central planners do not clog our economies. There is no longer an overbearing bourgeois culture bent on exclusion. Bull Connor isn't commissioner of public safety in Birmingham. Instead, our societies are dissolving. Economic globalization shreds the social contract. Identity politics disintegrates civic bonds. A uniquely Western, anti-Western multiculturalism deprives people of their cultural inheritance. Mass migration reshapes the social landscape. Courtship, marriage, and family no longer form our moral imaginations. Borders are porous, even the ones that separates men from women. Tens of thousands die of heroin overdoses. Hundreds of thousands are aborted. You know, and that to me, that is the fall of the mythology that all of us were born into. And somebody like Fuentes is really sharp because he recognizes all of those things that the myth tells us is not possible, right? The social myth, you know, the social imaginary tells us that none of those things are possible. We can be open and we can be free, right? You know, the left wing loves sort of openness, and you know, loose bonds, and you know, the so-called conservatives like freedom, you know, economic freedom and all these kinds of things. But the problem is the thing in the middle got burrowed out. And I think that's where we are. And in a weird sort of way, again, I don't think Trump is clearly not an intellectual, right? But I think he gets that something's done and dead and gone.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think he's
all right. Go ahead, push back.
I just think he's a narcissistic idiot. It's interesting because,
well, yeah, but lot of
I don't disagree.
Caesar, you could describe as that. Robespierre, you could describe as that. All these characters that end up tearing down systems tend to be exactly that.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah, no, I think he's here to destroy the system for sure, like whatever that system is. But I'm even thinking about the homily my priest told this past Sunday, where he was talking about the woman at the well. He says both forms, this priest, and he was like, I got to kind of talk about my Novus Ordo homily a little bit but he was talking about how the woman at the well and how, like, the story of the Samaritans and how the Romans, how they would how they would disperse peoples throughout the empire to disintegrate their culture. Right? Like you wouldn't put large groups of people together. You would put like these small groups of people and disperse them randomly and it would do that to destroy their culture so that they wouldn't have a cultural identity anymore and there wouldn't be any revolutions, things like that. And I feel like that's what this whole experiment of open borders and openness by the liberals is really about. It's about destroying our national cohesion and our natural culture so that it's easier to take control of this entity. Like I can't separate all the things we're talking about from the Christian story. Whereas I feel like when I talk to Rob about this, Rob sees it on a political view, which is not wrong or anything.
Right.
Like he's looking at it from like a political perspective, and all the things he says make total sense to me. And then, but when I put it into the grand narrative of the Christian story, I'm like, yeah, this doesn't end well.
Well,
this doesn't
end
like
well.
A breaking up of things. Like I feel like right now we're
because like
Armageddon.
Someone could have said that about the fall of Rome, in the 5th century.
Yeah.
But was
Augustine is writing exactly in that time frame, Rob. Right?
Yeah.
The world's blowing up. He certainly felt the world was ending.
But didn't the church see itself as the new Rome in that, like, Peter and Paul were the new Romulus and Remus, and they were planting a new thing? Like, I mean, that's how we see it in hindsight, at least.
That's why you get something like the Holy Roman Empire, right?
Right.
But there was definitely a sense of at least a type of apocalypse going on, a type of Armageddon going on.
Yeah, because like the collapse of the Roman Empire and the falling apart of the Roman Empire is kind of like the end of the way the church originally. So like when the church originally starts converting the Roman Empire, and then you have Constantine converts. Like the church sees the Roman Empire as Christendom, and the church thinks that there's got to be one empire, and that's the idea of Christendom. That the Roman Empire just becomes Christian, and that that's Christendom, and it winds up breaking up differently after the fall of the Roman Empire, and it becomes more of a subsidiarity type.
I'm not sure. Honestly, I would defer to someone who's a better historian than me, but I don't think they think of Christendom really like that until much later. Could be wrong. I always think of Christendom as being largely a medieval concept, but
I don't think so. I think they like when they were reading the Danielic prophecies about the fourth kingdom crumbling and God making one that covers the earth. Like I think the early Christians really saw Christendom as the Roman Empire converting, and then that. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm not an expert in this either. But either way, like we're going to like world's ending and stuff like that. So for me, when I see this whole thing playing out now, like I feel like we're marching towards the Battle of Armageddon, and it feels like Trump is some kind of a forerunner laying the stage for something to come. That's what it feels like.
All right, like again, you don't have to like this guy, but it's undoubtedly the case that he is a big president.
Yeah.
Right. He is not a manager. He is deeply consequential. And whether he has a sense of that or not, like, who knows? Right. But he's I don't know. He just strikes me as so consequential because, think about how small his predecessors look in relation to him.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not that they weren't powerful, but they very much saw themselves as working in that system. But I don't know.
Trump seems to be taking the system himself. This is what I mean by like I see Trump as like a Roman emperor type figure. Like you're coming to the end of the republic, and you're going to have something like the republic's been over for a long time. But what's coming next seems like I see Trump as maneuvering to stay in power. I mean, I don't know if I'm crazy for thinking that. It's just like a feeling I get. But when I see him building a triumph arch in Washington,
I mean, you and all my resistance friends would be in 100% agreement, Ant.
But it's so weird that I'm thinking like this because I was a MAGA guy. Like I really did buy the Kool-Aid.
Right, and I wasn't, and now I'm kind of like, he's kind of interesting. I don't know. You know?
I bought the Kool-Aid. I was on board with the Trump train, and then it was just the way I watched the first few months of his presidency play out that I was like, whatever's happening, he's not attempting to fix anything. There's no attempt to fix the financial situation. I actually really wanted Trump to win.
Fix it how? Fix it how?
Yeah, right? Exactly.
I mean, in terms of bringing us back to normal, you're right. He's not doing that, right? And so this is what I mean, that he's not acting in the system because it's almost like he has a kind of, again, I can be wrong, but like a gut instinct that the system itself is totally sclerotic. So why try to fix? You know, it's like trying to fix an engine that you blew a head gasket. It's
so in other words, something new must come. So there has to be a death for that. The only
way out is through, basically.
Well, the reason I really wanted Trump to win, especially during when he was running, was that he was promising to end the Ukraine war. And all I kept thinking was, I have a 20-year-old son, and I don't want my 20-year-old son getting drafted into some crazy thing over there. And all he's done is amplify things. And everything I've seen since that moment where it clicked for me, where I saw how he was behaving, and I said, I just think the world will be at war by the end of his presidency.
Right.
And I think that is his ticket to staying in power.
But see, I don't think Ukraine was ever. I totally agree with you. I've got a teenage son too, right? So just want to get that out there. I never felt, however, that Ukraine was real, right? It's real. It's a war. People are dying. It's awful. I have Ukrainian friends. Okay, full stop. Okay. So, but you know, Ukraine is such a symbolically important country for the old regime, right? Both symbolically important and economically important
for the old world order. Yeah.
Oh, right. For the post-war consensus, right? It's vitally important because you know all the eggs were thrown into that basket, and part of the reason why he offends the normies so hard is that he's not going to put Don Jr. in Burisma.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a reason why Biden was in Burisma in Ukraine, right? It's all kind of caught up with, you know, all the finances and economics. So no, I don't know. The whole Ukraine
I saw
war,
Ukraine as it was a deep state plot that they had concocted, and they were 20 years deep, and there's no way they're letting go of it. But the upside to Ukraine was we get to see what modern warfare with Russia would look like. So we're expending Ukrainian lives, not American lives. And we get to see what a modern battlefield looks like, because we've been in the freaking mountains of Afghanistan for the past 25 years, and we have no idea what a conflict with a major world power would look like versus some, you know, bunch of guerrillas in the mountains. Right. So it's the same thing with this Iran thing, where I think a lot of people had this impression that it was, you know, like the way people are talking about it is silly to me. I'm listening to the libertarians go about talking about it like it's like this is Iraq all over again. And it's like, we're in such a different world now, man. Like all of the things they're doing in Iran are strategic against China. And what happened with Venezuela was also strategic against China. So part of me is like, yes, let's wall off our hemisphere. Let's cut off their ability to, you know, have energy and things like that, because if we do hit a world war, I want our side protected as much as possible.
Yeah, of course.
So I see it that way. I see it in terms of that, and I'm really hoping that if war does come and it's of these big powers, that the theater of war is Europe and not here.
It'll never be here. It'll never be here. It can't. Like physically can't be here. Like there'll be terrorist crap, of course, but there's not going to be a war here ever. Not in our lifetimes. Not in our
grass.
How are they going to get here?
Yeah, you have the Colorado Rockies blocking you on one side if they try to come from that side. I mean, it really is a disaster to come
and like I don't know, like huge bodies of water that separate us from, you know, is Canada coming? Mexico? Like not bloody likely. Right. So so maybe again, I'm just riffing here off the top of my head, but if you look at what he did with Venezuela, what he seems to be doing with Iran. Like, I think this is like, I don't know, there's some weird reset going on, and I don't understand it. I'll just be blunt. But I guess where I would part is I just don't think this is like some sort of Zionist plot. I just don't. And I know
I don't think all right. So the Zionist plot stuff, I don't. Israel is its own thing. Like that's a separate thing from what's going on around. Like I don't think Trump is doing it because he's a Zionist or anything. I think that things are happening regardless. But the Jews in Israel do have their own designs on things. Like they just do. I
would if I were a Jew. Damn straight.
Yeah. But yeah, because I don't want to make this show about that. I know. I've talked about that ad nauseum. It's just I'd rather talk about, because some of the things you seem to think about AI, I don't agree with either. Okay, and that you really seem to think that I do think there's going to be a major economic shift in the way things are done coming very soon, right? So like AI is going to be very capable of taking a very significant portion of the jobs that we see as, especially women's jobs, right? Like most women's jobs are basically daycare for women. Those are the first jobs that are going to go, that stuff like that, which is going to be an interesting thing to watch happen.
Like with email jobs, you mean? You're just talking about email jobs?
Things like that, like secretary work, things like that. All that stuff is going to be able to be handled by AI, I think. So I don't know what's going to happen in that aspect when all these women are basically left not having their daycare anymore.
It'll be generational too, right? Because it's going to be really good for Gen X folks. It's going to be really good for the remaining boomers and older millennials. It's going to really suck for Gen Z and Gen Alpha, because they're going to hire take a high-end law firm, maybe not the best of the best, but a good solid law firm in one of the major metropolitan areas. They're just not gonna. They're gonna hire half the amount of junior associates, and then they're gonna hire a quarter of the junior associates, and then they're not gonna hire any. That's how that's gonna work.
Yeah, you'll still need the top lawyers at the firm, because you actually have to have a license to practice law. So you'll still have the prosecuting attorneys and things like that. Like those will still exist, but it's the junior partners and the clerks and things like that are just going to be obsolete at that point, because you could just do all your research right through AI.
I mean, Rob, in your work, do you see this? Do you see the encroachment coming in your work?
There are definitely ways it could, for sure.
I mean, I think of the three of us, I mean, Ant, you're the safest for the longest term.
I don't see AI ever being able to do my job.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, I don't even see it in 30, 40 years being able to do what I do. I mean, it may make my job simpler. There may be better technology to do my job. My job requires too much intricate thought for like, oh, this went wrong. I have to problem solve. It's not something you could just set in an algorithm to go. It's just not possible.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. But I think the time horizon, if we're talking time horizon, I think you're the safest for the longest. I'm toast.
I think a lot of healthcare is gone.
Yeah.
Besides surgeons, anyone actually doing the.
Have you seen robot surgeons?
But you are correct there too. Yeah.
It's insane. They can sew up a suture on a corn kernel, like remotely. It's utterly insane. It's utterly insane.
I think there's also the possibility it all collapses in a huge bubble though too, because right now every single AI firm is operating at such a loss, right? Like all this money that's behind them. Yeah. They've bought the world supply of RAM in graphics cards for the next 5 years with money that they've, invested, for data centers that aren't built yet, using electricity that can't be produced yet. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's all a house of cards. And if one thing comes down, it could all come down.
Rob, I popped the clip in the Telegram, the thing I just popped in. I want to play that real quick. Let me hear what you guys think about this. You got to put it on screen. It's not on.
I know I'm trying to get to
Well,
the video.
The man is working, Anthony. Give him
No,
a
well, sometimes he plays it and he doesn't realize we can't hear it. So
Rob
Okay.
does not care if we back talk.
Where the AI specifically focused. And the AI guys is really basically four guys. You got OpenAI, Microsoft, Saudi Arabia, Japan. You got Anthropic and the cluster around them. You've got Google and the cluster around them, and you've got the House of Musk and the cluster around him, potentially including Peter Thiel's resources. And China. Right? That's pretty much it in the whole world. So it's actually kind of nice. You don't have to have a scorecard. You can remember the back of your hand. But those guys have for years been very clear that this is plausibly, most likely, a winner-take-all game. Meaning, if you can get escape velocity on AI, because AI, one of the things the AI can do is it can make better AI, which we're already seeing happen. This is important. Remember, the payload of the Manhattan Project was not the atomic bomb. It was the Manhattan Project. Well, the payload of AI is AI because AI is the Manhattan Project. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And already Anthropic has talked about the fact that their most recent version was like 70% built with their previous version. Of course, right? If you're getting 100x improvement in software development by using Claude Code, Anthropic's going to be using Claude Code to build the next version of Claude Code. And there's only a matter of time before that starts to become closed loop by hypothesis, where the AI closes its eyes, focuses on itself for what us appears to be 2 days, and does 2 years worth of work and comes back out the other side so much more powerful that it just, whoa, what happened? And so this is what's happening in the Department of War. This is very important, is a negotiation between what are effectively peers at the level of power. The United States government, Department of War, is negotiating with one of the four major players in AI. Because guess who's not a major player in AI? The United States government is not on that list. They are not a major player. Now they're trying to figure out maybe how they could become a major player, but that's going to be hard for them because it's democracy. It's an inefficient bureaucracy. It gets shifted all the time. And by the way, the other four major players are strategically aware of what's happening. They're not dummies. So Sam looks at that and says, ooh, I could use the advantages of the Department of War to accelerate my ability. But he's not really, at the end of the day, that worried about competing with even China. Maybe, probably. I mean, China's on the board, so China's there. But he's really worried about Google. He's really worried about Elon. And that's where the real game is being played, because they're not necessarily certain, but they're confident enough that whoever wins has won. Big T tyranny, capital T. They call it a singleton, a single dominant AI that is so smart that it can absolutely extinguish all competitors forever.
So, and then he basically goes into saying how all of these guys all think they are the only one who is they are the only ones who can hold this power, because anybody else would be a tyrant with it. But they're so morally, like the power won't corrupt them, but it could corrupt anybody else. So they're all fighting for this power. But whoever really does get this thing to pop off is going to pretty much control it, right?
I mean,
if it
pops
all
off.
nonsense. I don't know how much of this is not. I talk into my phone and the stupid thing doesn't understand what I'm saying. I don't know if that's my accent or Apple is just ridiculously stupid.
The idea that they're using AI to build the next gen of AI, sure, maybe that works in the closed loop they're thinking, but it could also destroy itself in a closed loop, right? If it's got some issue in it and it builds its next version with that issue, and then that version builds the next version, and it's just always just regurgitating itself. Any errors, like in genetic code, any error that gets copied time after time, it just gets worse and worse. It's genetic entropy. It's AI entropy is what it could be.
Cancer.
Yeah.
Actually. I listened to that show. I thought it was a good show. Well, I mean, what is your beef with it, Anthony? I mean, what?
I just think whoever, I don't know. All the things that I'm seeing happening on the world stage just seem like it's all like we're building to the crescendo of a story, and I don't know what's on the other side of that story, and I don't want to stay locked into my own where I think I'm the only one who sees it and nobody else does. So I'm always open to hearing other people's perspectives so that I don't get stuck in my own internal loop where I'm like because I do want to see some hope here. And bringing other people on is how I try to see if I can bring some hope out of that.
I mean, if you're looking for hope, you invited the wrong guest in, Anthony. Because, I'm as sort of doom pilled as anybody about this stuff because, I think it is going to be powerful enough. I don't believe that it'll be sentient. I don't believe any of those kinds of things.
It can't. No.
But you don't have to believe that, right? All you have to believe is that does it work, right? Does it work? And I think it'll work for lots and lots and lots and lots of things. And even the jank, models that we have access to, work. If the people in the comments who are saying that it doesn't work, you're just wrong. I'm not saying it's perfect. I mean, it's a hot mess unto itself, but no doubt that the versions that they play with in their own labs behind, locked doors are way more powerful than the stupid ones we can buy a subscription, $20 a month, to Claude. No, there's no way. The ones that they're playing with are way more powerful. And there's just I don't know how we're going to avoid massive disruptions. If we think that the social contract has been nullified or it's been a lie, and I think the three of us probably agree on that score. You look at our kids and the world that they're facing, everything's broken, right? And I think that these disruptions are going to just push it all off, just like bye-bye.
And what happens to we're already dealing with a meaning crisis, right? Like you see the reason so many young men feel like they don't have a sense of purpose now because they can't buy a home. They can't, all of that stuff is going to be amplified to a degree that we can't even comprehend right now. And how does that not lead to civil war within our own country? How does that not? And then once you have something like that happen, you have all these foreign entities trying to fuel the flames of that, because the whole world would love to see America eat itself from the inside. Then they don't have to worry about fighting us from the outside.
Well,
so I don't know.
If America goes under these conditions, there's nowhere to hide. We built this globalist world. There's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't say that with any kind of relish, of course, nor with it in a kind of jingoistic, America F yeah kind of way. It's just it's just true. And so are we going to see a massive constriction? Is the sort of the standard of living going to plummet? I mean, is this the equivalent of a kind of
depression
or worse, a non-die-off bubonic plague?
Man, it's scary stuff. All right, before we get to Bobby Super Chat, we got to do knickknacks and shoplobster.com, guys. Shoplobster.com while it's Lent. If you guys want to get yourself something good for Friday and you can't have that meat, shoplobster.com is awesome. They Rob and I have agreed to take lobster as payment. It's that good.
Dang.
It really is amazing. So we're gonna have them send us some stuff.
Decidedly unkosher. Just gonna put it out there. Put it out there.
Yeah, people were saying it's too fancy. It's you can't. It's definitely not kosher. You can't have shellfish if you're Jewish. So. It's a very Catholic Lenten meal. So shoplobster.com, use code AB10 for 10% off. Very much worth it. And we hope you guys check them out. It's always good to support our sponsors. The other thing, before we even get to knickknack, Enoch. I can't believe I forgot this.
Come on.
Enoch's got a fundraiser out, guys.
Let me find it real quick.
Find Enoch's fundraiser. Enoch does one. This is his last album. And I told him that we would help push his fundraiser over. Enoch is our brother. We got to get this guy's fundraiser funded. He has features on this album that some of the guys that came on charge $2,000 for a feature. Enoch's not making money with this fundraiser. He's literally covering costs. I really want to see, especially our audience, jump in. Guys, if you got $10, $20, whatever you got, he's probably got a pin to his profile on X. Throw something his way. The guy really does put his heart and soul into his music. and it would mean a lot to us if like our show was the show that pushed him over the edge. He's at around 1,000. I think he set it at 4. We're going to be pushing this next episode too. I want to make sure we get this guy over the edge. So, you got it, Rob?
Yep, it's in the live chat.
It's in the live chat. If you guys can, just go throw $20 to him, $10 to him. I mean, instead of throwing us super chats, go support Enoch. And then knickknack.com. Knickknack's our biggest sponsor. They look out for us. They're sticking with us. Knickknack.com. Knickknack is a nicotine product. It is addictive. It is definitely not a smoking cessation device, but we love Knickknacks. Rob and I both like the citrus flavors, but the original we tried on air. We like that one too. So go check out knickknack.com. Use code AB25% for 25% off your first purchase.
Now, they did come to me today with another option potentially. We can continue doing 25% off for the first purchase, or if enough of our audience has already bought from them, they're willing to do 10% off of all purchases.
I think we should do that.
You think that?
Yeah, I think so, because it's expensive to have this stuff shipped. So tell them, the people that were going to try it, they bought their first time, and then they don't know where the promo code's coming from because they can't use it for their next purchase.
True. That's a good point.
So like anybody that bought it for the first time from us, we don't get credit for it after that. So let's get that 10% up. So, all right. Yeah. Now, so Bobby had a super chat. We'll jump over to that.
Can I say something first?
Yeah, go ahead, Kel.
So somebody in the chat was asking me what I was drinking, and I tried to type into the YouTube comment Negroni, but it would not let me type in Negroni. I think they thought I was being racist, but this is a lovely Negroni. I highly recommend them. It's a great cocktail. It's a classic.
Ironically, the only reason to black pill is if you don't think it's the end. If it is the end, Christ is coming back and we win. If it's not, he's not. It's about to get really evil and we'll need men to save us. That's scary. Yeah, Kale, where do you put this on the apocalyptic scale? Because when me and you spoke privately, you're a little more willing to go with me where you aren't really willing to go with Steve. So because
yeah. I think this. I mean, things are bad, man. Things are bad. So I tend to be a little apocalyptic. So I'm trying to keep myself
curb that.
I'm trying really hard to do that. I mean, I went, when I was a young man, I went down the hardcore Marian apparition route, and I played all that game, and I think it can be a little bit twisted, but just things are really lining up in very disconcerting ways, and on multiple fronts, right? I mean, because we've got the political situation, we've got the economic situation, we've got the AI situation, we've got the men and women situation, which is absolutely massive and huge. I actually think that's the most important one personally, because it's not at all clear to me that we are going to be able to figure out how to get along again. And it's a huge mess, as both of you know. It's just like it's an impossible conversation to have. And I teach at a co-ed school, and I can just kind of see it right in front of me. It's really tough.
It's rough because my son will go out, he'll go out with his friends, and he'll come home and he'll go, Dad, I could talk to a girl, and within 5 minutes, I know there's no possible way with this girl. She's just so caught up. It's the internet has really destroyed the brains of a lot of people, man. And it's both men and women. So I don't want to put blame on either one. They're both just so jaded. And the whole red pill movement served a purpose where it was waking people up to the dangers of feminism. But a lot of the young guys today have let a couple of Muslim guys tell them how awful women are, and they're just total black pilled. Yeah. It's not a red pill, it's a black pill. They just think it's impossible. Every girl's a hoe, and there's not, and it's man, I'm raising daughters and I want to have hope that they're going to be able to find a good man. I'm actually more hopeful for my daughters, because if they bring a guy home, I'm going to help mold that young guy who probably lacked a father figure in his life. Yeah. I'm more worried about my son meeting a girl, because these girls are just so destroyed by the internet, man, and the nonsense that's being fed. I was at a family event over the weekend, and this conversation of like, girl needs to provide for her. I was like, guys, this is not going to go well. We've had this fight several times, and I'm asking you, please, let's just change the subject, because it's going to get really ugly if we continue down this road. And they were kind of just like, yeah, all right, let's change the subject, because we've been down that road. Anytime I'm out with family and they start talking about this stuff and asking my daughters what they're doing, and they need to be able to provide for themselves and this and that. And I'm like, I don't have I don't have the bandwidth right now. So we need to change it. But yeah, the women question and the men question, the two of them together, that's a huge problem. I don't know how we're going to have a next generation if men and women hate one another, and they seem to right now. It's pretty bleak.
Yeah. And you know, I think this is going to be my bias showing up here, but you know, we are living in a world, you know, a fire hose of information, right? We have loads and loads of information, and we have access to tons and tons of information. I mean, all of us carry around, you know, the 10x equivalent of the Library of Alexandria in our pockets at all times, right? And yet, we don't need information. Actually, you know, we need wisdom, and we don't have any. All of our wisdom institutions are crap in the bed, and I include the academy and I include the church there, you know, and the very moment in which the church needs to speak with clarity and depth and insight and wisdom is the very moment where she's chosen to be a really pathetic NGO.
Silent, and worse than silent, almost feeding into it, right? So it's you're still seeing more reports of these synodal reports coming out, and they're like, oh, what are we going to do with women in positions of leadership and all this stuff? And it's like, man, the church really just needs to tell these women, look, we're never ordaining you, you're never going to be deacons, stop it. Like, they should just say, knock it off, stop it, that's it. But there's something going on in the church, and it's like the church is just impotent right now. That's what if the church was healthier, and even if we had a figure like a John Paul II, or if we had a figure like Benedict, I would not be nearly as far along my thoughts as I am. It's the fact that you had Francis, and now Leo just seems to just like, I don't know, he just seems to do nothing but whatever. So
well, he's certainly not a pope of grand gestures.
Yeah,
and I'm okay with that, honestly. If he's going to be doing some work behind the scenes, cleaning up governance issues, which is it's a big issue for me. I think it could be a good thing, but I don't have high hopes.
Yeah, it's that's kind of where I go with it. But it's
But so the question is, like, why are our young people so susceptible to the spells of social media? You know, and I think it's because we've cut ourselves off from any sense of wisdom and the wisdom tradition, you know, which clearly obviously includes the church, but also, you know, education. You know, we don't have a very thick story. You know, you were talking about the story of the post-world consensus and all that, and that's going by the wayside. But it was such a thin, weak story,
superficial story.
Yeah, like really superficial.
We've deconstructed everything.
Yeah, I mean, we really have, and now I think we're finally seeing the rotten fruits of that, you know, come to pass. I mean, because even like I was in high school in the late '80s, and even like most high schools, like, you know, you read a little Shakespeare and you read some American novels, and you know, you had sort of basics, but all that stuff's been completely evacuated.
Yeah,
you know, there's no tapping into the deeper roots of our culture. It's all lateral and superficial. It's identity stuff. You know, it's all the crap. I mean, both of you know this, but I think it bears repeating because, you know, there was at least a kind of narrative of the West that we all, you know, basically shared, but that's been evacuated. And I think we're finally seeing what happens when you raise people without a story, you know, without a deep story.
Mm-hmm.
And to go sending $10 and hope to see Kale speak in tongues at some point in the interview for the prods tuning in. To go back to the Marian apparition stuff from when you were younger. Like I did that too. My mom, before Y2K, my mom like had the basement stocked. My parents had gone to Medjugorje when I was a kid, and my mom was very apocalyptic when I was younger, right? And it destroyed the faith of my brother when nothing happened in 2000, because he was like, he had this anxiety thinking the world was going to end, and then nothing happened, right? And I kind of like, I had like a little sense of that stuff, but it never scared me. Like I never thought the world was like, I saw Our Lady's messages and I was like, man, I never saw it as like definitively happening in 2000. I always saw it as things are escalating, and I did think we got kind of a reprieve there for a while, and now it's almost like Our Lady's fallen silent, and that's kind of what scares me, because she did come to give us warnings earlier on in the 20th century, and then once again in the 1960s, and now it seems like she's kind of fallen silent, unless you buy into Medjugorje's daily apparitions, which whatever, but I do think it is dangerous to go apparition chasing, which is why I've kind of stuck to the church fathers and the story of scripture itself to kind of see this stuff through. But like, if this isn't the great apostasy, what the hell does the great apostasy look like? I mean, you basically have the entire church falling away from the faith right now. So what would the great apostasy look like if not this?
Could be worse, potentially. I don't know.
Yeah, of course, but can always get worse. I mean, things can always escalate, but you know what I mean, right? Like where people are saying, because people are saying that Vincent Amuso said it. He said, "Dare I say that JP2 and Benedict were also bad?" But in hindsight, it's easy to say that.
It's a retrograde. Yeah, it's a retrofit. I think it's
easy to say that in hindsight, but at the time, these men were like pillars of the moral clarity, just beside because we didn't know,
and they were hated. They were hated by the left. I mean, like truly, both in the church and outside the church. I mean, they were hated, loathed, retrograde, disgusting creatures. I mean, I worry about the Marian apparition thing as being a kind of form of Catholic Gnosticism.
Yeah,
can be.
Yeah, and it was for me. I just to speak, I don't want to make too broad of generalizations there, but it certainly functioned that way. For me, almost like a kind of Catholic Left Behind type thing. If you remember that from gosh, 2 decades ago now.
Kirk Cameron.
Yeah. So but the gist, of course, is repent, pray, offer sacrifice, fast. Go to the sacraments. Those are good things. Like those are perennially good things.
But Catholics that apparition chase, like they get into things like even like the 3 days of darkness, where like your candle, if you don't have blessed candles, you won't be able to see anything. And it's like, well, how do you even light the match to light the candle if nothing but the blessed candle will light? And it is a very rapture type way to think. It's like, well, I have my blessed candles. I'm going to survive this thing. It's like, that's not really how Catholics have ever viewed this scenario. We are to embrace suffering and things like that. Look, the reason for shows like this are to kind of prepare people for the coming calamities that are coming, whether they're apocalyptic in nature or not. Like just on a natural level, when you're talking about the shift that is upon us on the world stage and in our own country, the hostilities that I'm in New York. We just had 3 attempted terrorist attacks over the weekend. Like things are going to get really, really rough over the next couple of years, especially us picking fights, and they're framing it as a religious war, even if we're not seeing it as a religious war. The Muslims are seeing it as a religious war. So that's the kind of stuff that is dangerous. I think that's what Tucker was getting at in his monologue, where whether or not we see it that way, because we're just Americans and we're pretty, we're nominally Christian for the most part. Yeah. When we're going and attacking Iran and the narrative is we have to defeat these evil Muslims, and we welcomed all these Muslims into our country. It's a dangerous situation, no matter how you look at
I saw Katie McGrady was in the.
Yeah, I doubt that's really Katie.
I know.
That's like when we get Jimmy Aiken in the chat.
Yeah, go. Where's your AI, man? I was hoping to have a conversation with AI Jimmy Aiken.
All right, so we're gonna take this over to locals. We did our hour on YouTube. Locals, I'll give you guys some inside baseball on locals tonight.
I can't wait to argue with you about your Twitter habit. It's gonna be great.
Let's do it.
I'll
give you guys a little inside baseball. We got some conference updates. We got a couple things we got to discuss over on locals. So if you guys are not locals members, Rob will put the link up. But also before you guys go, please go support Enoch. We want to see Enoch's fundraiser get bumped. He's a great friend of the show. He's a great friend in person. He's one of the best people I've met in this space. So if there's anybody that we can throw something to, I hope it's him. So, all right. Yeah, we got some tea and drama over on locals tonight. So join us over there. Take us out, Rob.
Avoiding Babylon, no cap. Avoiding Babylon, the show that slaps. Other podcasts acting like baby boomers. Move over millennials, it's time for zoomers. This is just a way to do that, no cap. Listen to the Avoiding Babylon podcast. Do you want a Catholic glow up? Then finna listen to Avoiding Babylon with Anthony and Rob. Rob be risen, Anthony be bussin', haters be sussin'. Avoiding Babylon. Avoiding Babylon.